we want to make sure that you don't run out of money, but we want to plan for longevity and then even longer longevity, because we know each generation is living longer than the last. But if you have, like I said, a family history of longevity in your family, we need to take that into account as well when doing your plan.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
This is Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman, your certified financial planner professional at Silverman & Associates. Mark, of course, in Tucson and serving folks all over southern Arizona. Thanks for being with us today. If you'd like to get in touch with Mark for that 20-minute complimentary phone call, then all you have to do is call this number, 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Mark calls it his introductory 20-minute call, and you can find out exactly some of the answers to some of the questions you have. Maybe you get a quick assessment of where you are, and then that may lead to a meeting in Mark Silverman's office, a get-together, conversation there face-to-face, and that's a very pleasant process, too. No charge and no obligation. 520-333-7601. Mark, we talk a lot about longevity on this show, and the death rate for human beings is still hovering right around 100%. As far as I know, we're all going to die at some point. But lifespans are continuing to increase. And I'm just wondering, how old is your oldest client?
I believe my oldest client right now is 93. I had a client that was in their hundreds that unfortunately passed away about a year and a half ago. But, clients are getting older, and everybody's getting older and older, right? So,
Yeah.
Clients are people who are living longer, it's double-edged sword, as I like to say. It's good that you're living longer too, but you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for those extra years as well. So that's the challenge.
Yeah, as people live longer lifetimes, that increases the need for a professional certified financial planner who is going to help you and make sure that you are well funded during your retirement years. So, that makes your job more and more important every year because people are definitely living longer. Medical care, for the most part, is better, and people are just sticking around a lot longer than they used to. Some companies out there are investing millions of dollars into the concept of significantly increasing the human lifespan. So longevity is clearly a coveted thing. Why then do we often talk about longevity as a risk?
Well, and there are a lot of people that talk about, whether it's some way to hack, there's certain hacks of how to live longer and that sort of thing. But, my whole thing is you got to have a good quality of life. There's no sense of living longer if there's no quality there. And we certainly see that, unfortunately, with dementia, Alzheimer's and stuff that keeps increasing.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is, like you mentioned, it can be problematic. When we do planning for people, we'll run the plan usually into their 90s. The plan will default based on the year that they're born and give us, average, death rates, I guess you would call it, based on their age. But we also look at longevity in the family history. I have some clients whose parents maybe lived to their late 90s or hundreds, so we need to take that in consideration. So for some people, we'll push the plan out to 100 and see what that does. Obviously, you got to have more money to cover those extra years, whether it's 7, 8 years longer. That money has to be accounted for. Then it's with inflation that can significantly add up as well. So we want to look at those things. We typically won't shorten the plan if it defaults to a certain age, unless we know that there's some type of serious illness or terminal illness, whatever it might be, that we need to take into account. So, we want to make sure that you don't run out of money, but we want to plan for longevity and then even longer longevity, because we know each generation is living longer than the last. But if you have, like I said, a family history of longevity in your family, we need to take that into account as well when doing your plan.
I almost hesitate to ask this question because I have a feeling that the answer is not going to be a good one. How effectively has the average person out there in Tucson or anywhere in the surrounding area addressed the financial challenges that can come with longevity?
Most people haven't. The only time that it really comes about is like anything, when you have a personal experience with it. Maybe you have a parent that, it's like long-term care. Most people don't want to talk about it, don't want to, and it's an important conversation to have, not a fun conversation, but a real and important conversation you need to have. And most people don't want to have those conversations. And when we do planning, that's part of the conversation that we have to figure out what's the strategy for that. And most people don't want to talk about it or haven't thought about it unless, of course, they maybe have a parent that's in a home or needed care and they understand what the ramifications can be. Same thing is true here. So if they have a parent that's maybe lived a long life, maybe needs some help, maybe they can't live on their own anymore, and maybe they've moved in with them. I have some clients whose parents move in with them, et cetera, or maybe a sibling's taking care of them, or they're maybe paying for them to live somewhere because maybe Social Security is just not cutting it, or they don't have a pension, or whatever it might be. So most people, to answer your question, haven't addressed it, but it's something that we do need to have a conversation about and figure out what we're going to do about it.
Tell us about someone who came in to see you, and primarily they came because they were afraid of running out of money. What did you do to help this person?
Well, I'd say that's probably the primary concern most people have, even though they may not say it that way, is running out of money, making sure that they can do everything that they want to do in their lifetime and not run out of money and be a burden to their kids or family, whatever it might be. So, we take a planning process with every client that we bring on. So every onboarding that we do a complete comprehensive financial plan where we look at everything. And part of that is obviously looking at longevity and running those numbers to see here's what you're spending or here's what you're planning on spending, making sure with inflation and everything else, all the different income sources and investments that you have, how is that going to work to make sure that you not at risk of running out of money, which also does another thing. It makes sure you have an enjoyable retirement, because you're not going to feel good about going out there and spending money on travel or golf or whatever it might be if you're going to be worried about you're running out of money. So if you can confidently do that, knowing that we've taken everything into consideration and that we've run the numbers to show, hey, this is going to be fine, you're going to be fine, can enjoy it, you're not going to run out of money, you can confidently go out and do those things that you want to do versus, living in fear that you're constantly going to be running out of money, which is not a good way to live in retirement.
Tell us about the True Wealth financial life planning process you have.
Sure. So what we do is we have a 5-step process where people come in. Once we have an introductory call, which Ron will give you the number on, we have an introductory call. I answer some questions, ask you some questions. You feel free to ask me some questions. It's a conversation with me. And then I'll kind of get into the details about more what we do and how we may be able to help you. If we both feel that you're a good fit for that, we'll bring you into the office and I'll go through everything and give you everything in writing, what the cost is, what's included, what's not included, everything, and go through that process. And then you can make a decision whether you want to go through that. But it's a complete process. It covers every facet of your financial life. We're going to talk about goal planning. We're going to talk about your investments, your estate plan, your tax planning, insurance planning, risk management, legacy planning, all these different components that are part of your life. Like I tell people, we're going to answer any questions that you have, and we're going to bring up concerns that you didn't even know to ask about. So it's a completely transparent process that we follow and gets everything in order to show you exactly where you stand to make sure that, and this applies to people. We do this for people that are, planning for retirement. So whether you're in your 40s and you're thinking about retiring in 10 or 20 or 30 years or never, or somebody that's already retired that may be in fear of making sure that maybe they're kind of concerned that maybe they're spending too much and seeing what they can and can't do, whether it's long-term care, whatever it might be, we're going to cover all those bases.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money. All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. This show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.